MBR and GPT. The two partition style, that is not in the case of Linux. For all operating system, for all hard disk configuration, there are two main partition style, that is MBR and GPT. Master boot record and guide partition table. Master boot record and guide partition table. So what is the difference between that? What is that? We'll discuss it. So what is partition table? We already discussed that. Nothing. How we will configure our hard disk. How we will create the partitions. That is actually the partition style. So once it is coming to the master boot record, MBR. MBR partition style running with BIOS firmware. So what is BIOS? Basic input output system. This is a firmware. It's a combination of hardware and software. Actually, our processor don't know anything about the hardware of your PC. Our RAM don't know. Only one person know all the hardware about all the hardware connected to your motherboard. That is BIOS. BIOS having a program that will tell to the PC this many devices are available. So if you're taking the booting process of any operating system, it will start from BIOS only, right? So I'm not going to discuss the BIOS more. So nothing. If you are using actually this is a traditional firmware method, firmware that we are using, that is BIOS. So MBR is supporting or running with the BIOS firmware, the BIOS firmware. Okay. So if BIOS firmware is there, you can able to use the MBR partition style, and we can able to configure. And if you are coming to GPT, the partition style running with the UEFI firmware, the new firmware is available. Nowadays, almost all the computer servers are coming with UEFI BIOS. Okay, before it is BIOS, basic input output system, UEFI, Unified Extensible Firmware Interface. Now we are using. What is the difference? Means if you are going to both screen, BIOS we can able to use only the keyboard. But in UEFI, we can able to use mouse. More graphical feature is there, and there are so many advanced configurations. You can able to lock your operating system. There are so many advanced configurations are available. So GPT partition style is running with UEFI firmware. That is one of the main difference. And next, again, come to MBR, master boot record. So here you can able to see the 4 primary partition. It's possible. So I don't know how many of you installed at least your Windows 7 operating system. If you are installed Windows 7 operating system, at the time of installation, you can able to see a console for configuring the hard disk, right? So if you are configuring the first partition, that time itself automatically system reserved partition will create, and 2 partition will create if you are configuring 1 partition. After that, again you can able to create only 2 partition. While installation time, you can able to create 4 primary partition. After that, again you are trying to create, it is not at all possible. So how you can able to create multiple partition? So you want to install the operating system, and you just go to the disk management and delete third partition. And in disk management, if you are creating 1, 2, 3 partition, the next 4th partition will come as a extended partition. In that extended partition also, you can't able to format. In that extended partition, you have to create the logical partitions. Multiple logical partition is possible in that 4th partition, that is extended partition. So on top of the extended partition, we will create the logical partition, and we will format and use that. In Windows, we can able to do the same things here, because that is not Windows concept. That is the MBR, the disk management concept. Okay, if you want to create maximum 4 primary partition, you can able to create maximum 4 primary partition. And if you want a multiple partition, then you can create 3 primary partition, and you can create 1 extended partition. And on top of extended partition, you can able to create multiple logical partitions, logical volumes that you can able to format and use. Then you will get in your just take an example in Windows. If you are going to my computer window, you can able to see all the drive, right? So like that, if you create a multiple logical volume also, it will appear the multiple logical volume. It is possible. And once all the drive letter completed, A to Z completed, you can able to mount. Mount option is available in Windows also. Okay, you can able to mount the partition under a direction. That is possible. But that will not appear in my computer window. So if you are removing any drive letter of any of the drive in Windows, that will not appear in my computer window. If any drive won't appear, you can able to, you should give the drive letter. So come to Linux. So maximum 4 primary partitions is possible. Otherwise, you have to create 3 primary and 1 extended. In that extended, you have to create the logical partitions and you can format and use it. But Linux is telling that only 15 partition is possible. Total 15 partition, 5 partition is possible. If you are using MBR partition style or MBR partition scheme, only 15 partition is possible. Then next come to the GPT partition style. So it will support up to 128 partition. There is no primaries or extended concept. All are called as symbol volumes. All are called as symbol volumes. Okay. So I'm getting a query. What is the difference between primary partition and logical partition? Partition is difference is there, but whenever you are using, you will not feel the difference. Partition difference is the primary partition that you are doing on the hard disk. So the dividing the hard disk, but the logical partition that you are creating on extended partition, right? Primary partition, first 3 primary partition you have to create, the next will automatically come as extended. So on top of extended, there we are configuring the logical partition. Only the difference is there. Multiple logical partition you have to create there. So if whenever you are using, you will not feel any difference there. All will come as a drive. Got it? So in guided partition table, supporting up to 128 partition, there is no primary or there is no extended, there is no logical volume concept. So if anybody is newly joined our session, please make sure that your audio is in muted condition because that will interrupt your session. The noise will come, so others can't able to hear my voice. So let me continue. So guided partition table will support up to 128 partition. So there is a difference here. You can able to see, right? So the one of the limitation in MBR partition child, that is using MBR partition child, either you can create 4 primary partition, otherwise you can create 3 primary plus 12 logical partition. Total 15 partition only you can able to create. But once it is coming to guide partition table,